Hi, I'm Randy Christian with the Essential Faith Project, and today I want to talk to you about joy. This is in our series on the fruit of the Spirit, those qualities that the Holy Spirit is building within us to make us more Christ-like, and is doing that in partnership with us as we are allowing ourselves to be led by the Spirit and we walk in the Spirit. So joy is something that is produced in us, but it is also something we're commanded to have. Paul says in 1 Thessalonians 5:16 that we are to rejoice always. He says again in Philippians 4:4, rejoice in the Lord. And again, I say rejoice. And that word rejoice is simply the verb form of the word joy. In other words, have that joy and let it be expressed in your life. Now, is Paul talking about being happy all the time? Is he saying we need to be smiling and bubbly and, exuberant? And the answer is no. He's not telling us to do that, nor is that how he lived. But the fact is, there's a difference between happiness, which depends on the circumstances of the moment, and joy, which is a sense of contentment and well-being that's rooted in a knowledge of what God has done in our life. Because you see, that never changes. Happiness will. Things go up and down. Our fortunes go up and down. We feel good or we feel bad. We're experiencing success or we experience failure. We find that we sin. All of these things can bring us down in terms of happiness, but not joy. Because as all of those things happen to us, we know that the Holy Spirit is continuing to work in us and change us from the inside out. So Paul tells us this is something that it doesn't just happen to us passively, but something that we're to practice to rejoice. How do you do that when you don't feel like it? How do you do that when your life is in pain of some kind? The answer is, number one, remember this isn't something we do on our own. So you need to talk to God. You need to let him know why it's hard for you right now and talk to him and allow him to remind you that this is something that's done in his strength, not in yours. Second, we need to keep our focus straight. We need to remember that our life, like driving a car, will go where our vision is, where our focus is. So when things are not going well, we need to remind ourselves of the things that God has already done. When I was fighting the treatment of cancer, literally dying and unsure if I was going to survive, I remember forcing myself when I would be in a deep depression to remember all that God had done. And I literally would go back and remember the very beginning of my walk with the Lord and ask him, just remind me, Lord, of all these things. And it was amazing what he would bring to mind and how I was able then to see God's faithfulness to us versus the things that I was going through at the time. I'm not going to tell you that it wiped everything away and again, that I was bubbly and giggly. I wasn't. But I will say it allowed me to keep my focus on him. And that's the second part of this focus. We need to not only look at the little things that are going well in our life that God has done, but we also need to remember the big picture. And the big picture is this: we are promised the resurrection. In the end, we will be with the King. All the source of sorrow, everything that could bring us down, will be wiped away. That is the promise we have from God. So we ask God for help, and then we keep our focus on him. Third, we need to remember this is lived out in community. We don't do this very well when we're by ourselves. It helps to have people reminding us of these things. So we need to be bringing ourselves into community. That's especially important as I record this and people are still experiencing isolation from one another because of the COVID pandemic. We need to experience community and communicate, if not be present with others who can encourage us. Finally, we need to also remember hope. Hope is not, I bought a lottery ticket, maybe I'll win. but I know the odds are millions against it. Hope is, I know what God has promised, and I haven't experienced it yet. But no matter what's going on right now, I know that's coming. So I can handle these things as long as I have that hope that I know will be fulfilled by the God who loves me.